The show opens in 2017 as we meet our protagonist, Josh, who's obsessed with playing a video game called Biotic Wars, in which he must defeat a group of superhuman mercenaries known as the Biotics. The game is set in the year 2162, when the human race is on the brink of extinction. The Biotics have unleashed a lethal virus that has killed all 40 billion humans on the planet, leaving only a fragile remnant of humanity defended by a small army known as the Resistance. Nobody has ever finished the game, which is why Josh finds it so unique, and it serves as an escape from his monotonous routine. In the next scene, Josh heads to his job at a facility called Cronish Laboratories, where he works as a janitor. While cleaning, he keeps stealing glances at a staff member named Jerry, on whom he has a crush. But an arrogant doctor named Camillo notices this and begins mocking Josh and belittling his work. However, he's interrupted by the facility's owner, Dr. Cronish, who orders Camillo to get back to work. Cronish then strikes up a conversation with Josh, admitting that he wants to fire Camillo but can't because the doctor is too important to his research. Cronish goes on to point out a lump on his lip, revealing that he has herpes and has been working on a cure. When Josh wonders how he contracted it, Cronish explains that he caught it from a woman named Barabella at a Caltech party on the night of the moon landing. That evening, while playing Biotic Wars as usual, Josh unexpectedly beat the final level by killing the evil doctor and blowing up the lab, earning the title of the in-game savior. This excites him, and he begins pleasuring himself while looking at a picture of the game character, Tiger. But moments later, his eyes widen in shock as Tiger and another character, Wolf, appear in front of him in human form. The two then reveal that they are from the year 2162, and the game is actually a simulation of real events from the future. Josh is the only person who has ever beaten it, which makes him their savior. A shocked Josh assumes his friends are playing a prank on him, but Tiger soon pulls out a time machine and transports them to 1969. Shortly after, Josh is shocked to find his room completely transformed. He heads downstairs, where he encounters his grandparents and the younger versions of his dad and uncle. The family is startled by the stranger and immediately begins beating him up, assuming he's an intruder. Wolf wants to help Josh, but Tiger insists on testing their savior's combat abilities first. But when Josh continues to get beaten up, the two fight off the family members and then flee outside. Later, Josh is stunned to realize they are truly back in 1969 and realizes they need to blend in. The three then fight a group of bikers and steal their clothes and bike before speeding away. They soon arrive at a diner where Wolf excitedly devours the food, since in the future, all they eat are rats and garbage. The time travelers are disappointed in Josh because they expected him to be a fighter, since only he could complete the game, but it turns out he's just an ordinary person. The two further reveal that something big is going to happen tonight because of a man named Cronish, the creator of the Biotics. Hearing this, Josh is shocked and admits that he knows the doctor very well. He then notices on TV that today is the day of the moon landing and realizes that this is the same day Dr. Cronish will catch herpes. It turns out his medicine will eventually lead to the creation of the Biotics. Josh shares this with the duo and suggests they should go to Caltech to stop Cronish from sleeping with that woman. If Cronish never contracts herpes, he will not have to seek a cure, and humanity will be saved. A few moments later, Josh accidentally blows up the diner with one of Tiger's devices. This causes havoc among the people, and cops are immediately summoned. We then see two officers, Jorge and Skarsgård, responding to the emergency, and they seem excited since it's the first day of work. But Wolf worries that they are about to arrest them, so he detonates a mine bomb, causing the car to explode. This ends up killing Jorge, while Skarsgård is devastated by his partner's death. Shortly after, the three arrive at Caltech, where a party is happening within the black community. They soon come across a young Cronish, whom Wolf and Tiger immediately want to kill, but Josh stops them. Regardless, an angry Wolf ends up saying an offensive phrase, causing all three to be kicked out of the party. Outside, Josh comes across a passed-out man named Lamar wearing a spacesuit. He thus steals the suit and heads back into the party disguised as him. Inside, he spots Cronish again, who is with a woman named Barabella, the one who will infect him with herpes. Josh tries to approach Cronish but is stopped by several men who mistake him for Lamar and start chatting with him. Afterward, Josh finally manages to approach Cronish and tries to separate him from the woman. But this only agitates Cronish, who is desperate to get laid at any cost. He assumes Josh is after Barabella, and the two engage in a dance battle to win her over. Cronish turns out to be a skilled dancer and wins the crowd's favor. However, Josh surprises everyone by performing Michael Jackson's moonwalk, impressing not only the crowd but also Barabella, who now agrees to sleep with him. However, Just then, the real Lamar walks in and wonders why everyone is chanting his name. This blows Josh's cover, and when people remove his helmet, they're shocked to see a white guy. Our hero flees upstairs, while Lamar, who had been wearing Josh's coat, finds an iPhone in the pocket and grows curious. Josh, meanwhile, escapes the building by jumping out of a bathroom window and reunites with Tiger and Wolf. He informs them that the mission has been successful, and the excited trio uses the time machine to travel into the future. Moments later, they arrive back in 2017, and Josh is pleased that he has finally solved the problem and saved humanity. However, the trio is stunned when they see a bus with an advertisement featuring Dr. Cronish pointing at the sore on his lip, revealing that he's still working on a cure. Josh leads the two to his room through his window and heads downstairs, where he's shocked to see a gun in the living room. He asks his dad about it, and the latter explains they've always had a gun since an incident in 1969 when several hippies attacked them. At the same time, Josh notices his mom using an iPhone, but now it's called a Black Apple, which turns out to have been invented by Lamar. The boy is stunned by all these changes and realizes that by going back to the past, he has altered many things. He rushes upstairs and is further shocked to notice that his laptop is now called a blaptop. Josh then informs Wolf and Tiger about the changes, and the duo declares that the only way to save humanity is to kill Dr. Cronish. At first, Josh refuses to take such an extreme measure, but upon realizing they won't stop at any cost, he finally agrees to help them. Shortly after, they arrive at the facility, where Josh asks the two to stay outside while he goes inside to find the doctor. He is then shocked to notice several changes around the facility, including that Dr. Camillo is no longer just an employee, but now a partner of Cronish. Moments later, Josh manages to find Cronish and questions him about how he got herpes. The old man explains that after being humiliated at the moon landing party, he felt insecure and went on to have intercourse with several other women around the world, which is probably the cause. Josh then tells Cronish he has a surprise for him and invites him outside. The innocent doctor agrees, which makes Josh feel bad and realizes he can't lure him to his death. Instead, he advises Cronish to hide, warning that some dangerous people are after him. However, the doctor doesn't get scared, as he is used to receiving death threats every day from activists because of his possum experiments. Meanwhile, outside, Tiger and Wolf grow impatient as Josh still hasn't returned. They enter the building and begin causing havoc, even beating up some of the people inside. They soon find Josh, who begs them to spare the doctor's life and insists there must be another way to stop the research. Tiger now believes Josh doesn't have the guts to kill him, so she pretends to agree with him and secretly places a tracker on him. Afterward, Josh once again approaches Cronish, who reveals that Josh's earlier mention of death made him realize his time is limited. As a result, he has already shared his research and formula online, making it accessible to anyone who can develop a cure. This excites Josh because it means that there's no point in killing Cronish anymore, since the research is out there anyway. But just then, Josh hears Tiger and Wolf wielding a laser gun from another building and preparing to kill the doctor. Josh signals them to abort the mission, but they don't listen and fire a shot that shatters the window. Cronish and Josh begin panicking, so Tiger decides to fire again to finish the doctor. However, the duo is interrupted when several biotics who have arrived from the future begin attacking them. Josh also arrives outside and is shocked to see Tiger and Wolf fighting biotic soldiers, whom he has only ever seen in the video game. After all the biotics are defeated, Tiger and Wolf remove their masks, and Josh recognizes them as people currently working at the facility. Wolf goes on to say that these biotics are humans grown in labs and may come from the future to protect Cronish. Following this, the three haul the biotics corpses down to the basement and toss them into the lab's incinerator, where possums that die during experiments are burned. The time travelers grow frustrated with Josh for interfering in their plans and suggest it would be much easier to travel back to when Cronish was just a baby. They press him for Cronish's birth date, but Josh has no idea, and he refuses to condone killing innocent infants. At this moment, Wolf checks the time travel device and is shocked to discover that their fuel, known as cameronium, has completely run out. This alarms them, as without it, they won't be able to time travel anymore and will be stranded in the present. The duo urges Josh to find more cameronium, but he admits he has no idea what it even is. They ask him to figure it out, pointing out that he's a scientist working in a laboratory. However, an embarrassed Josh confesses that he's a janitor, which enrages the time travelers. They feel foolish for believing he was their savior and kick him off the team. Afterwards, Wolf and Tiger hide in a sewer, discussing their situation, and shortly after, Josh arrives in search of them. He insists he has a plan and urges the duo to trust him and take him back, which they reluctantly agree to. After analyzing multiple options, the group decides to steal Cameronium from the biotics, who also have access to time travel in both the past and future. Since several biotics work at Cronish's facility disguised as ordinary humans, they plan to capture and torture them for information. Josh then mentions the company's annual holiday event, the Cronish Ball, is happening this coming weekend, and that attendance is mandatory. The party traditionally ends with a toast, followed by everyone eating a Cronish Ball, which is a small chocolate truffle. Since the biotics are poison-resistant, they devise a plan to contaminate the truffles with sewer mushrooms, causing every non-biotic to vomit and soil themselves. This allows the biotics to be identified immediately, making them much easier to capture. Afterward, Josh meets with Cronish and tries to get the recipe for the Cronish balls. However, the doctor explains that because he released his research to the public, Camillo is enraged and has decided to cancel the traditional Cronish ball. Josh realizes this is going to be a serious problem, so he approaches Jerry and asks for the recipe, saying he wants to surprise the director with Cronish balls. The woman finds the gesture touching and agrees to help him. Meanwhile, Josh realizes that Tiger and Wolf aren't quite ready for a social gathering, so he introduces them to his parents as former soldiers deeply scarred by their time in Afghanistan. Josh's dad, Gabe, quickly bonds with Wolf and teaches him the basics of cooking. Although Wolf struggles at first, Gabe patiently guides him with kindness and understanding. Meanwhile, Josh's mom, Diane, takes Tiger under her wing, showing her how to apply makeup, choose nice dresses, and walk confidently in heels. Days later, it is finally the day of the event, when Wolf prepares Cronish balls with sewer mushrooms to poison the guests. He then sneaks into the party as a waiter, while Tiger wears a stunning dress and attends as Josh's date. Afterward, Josh shows these desserts to Dr. Cronish as a surprise, and the old man is genuinely touched by this sweet gesture and thanks him. Later, in the meantime, Jerry, who has been bonding with Josh over the past few days, notices him with Tiger and feels a bit upset. Josh follows her and tries to clarify that Tiger is just a co-worker, not his girlfriend. Even though she remains skeptical, he manages to win her over with some sweet talk. The two then kiss, but are interrupted when Cronish begins his toast. Wolf then arrives at the main hall with Cronish balls and begins serving the guests, who eat with excitement. But moments later, the guests start getting sick and violently vomit, except for the people who are biotics. Elsewhere, we see an older version of Officer Skarsgård, whose partner Jorge was tragically killed by the time travelers in 1969. It turns out he still hasn't forgotten their faces, and when he comes across Josh, he immediately recognizes him. Skarsgård promptly arrests Josh, but moments later, he starts vomiting, which gives the boy the chance to escape. Meanwhile, Wolf and Tiger go after biotics to capture them, but most of them kill themselves to avoid being tortured for information. The trio seems frustrated when, all of a sudden, they notice Jerry in the distance, and she seems to be completely fine. In a shocking twist, she also turns out to be a biotic and engages in an intense fight with Wolf. Jerry then activates her brain bomb, which will explode her head immediately. Although Tiger quickly intervenes, she only manages to delay the bomb rather than fully deactivate it. This leaves the trio with only 28 minutes until the bomb goes off and Jerry dies. Meanwhile, Josh watches the entire scene with horror and shock since he thought that Jerry genuinely liked him. In the next scene, the trio brings an unconscious Jerry home, but Josh is shocked to see his parents hosting a party with many guests. The parents inquire about the unconscious woman, so he claims she's just a co-worker who got too drunk at the party. The three then take Jerry upstairs, where Wolf and Tiger plan to torture her, despite Josh pleading with them not to. Tiger then sends Wolf downstairs to distract the family and guests so they won't disturb them upstairs. Next, Tiger ties up Jerry and wakes her up before questioning her about the location of the biotics' hidden time travel device. However, as expected, Jerry refuses to provide any information while their clock is ticking down. Meanwhile, Josh wastes a lot of time asking Jerry if she actually liked him or was just pretending. She responds that she doesn't have any feelings for him and that the whole thing was a lie, which really breaks the poor guy's heart. Next, Jerry starts manipulating Josh, claiming that the Resistance is a terrorist group that blows up hospitals and kills innocent people in the future. She insists the biotics' real aim is to control the population and maintain maintain peace to create a utopian society. This shocks Josh, but Tiger quickly intervenes and warns him that these biotics are extremely manipulative. Next, a frustrated Tiger decides to use a live scorpion to torture Jerry, but Josh stops her and promises to handle the situation. He claims there are still 6 minutes left, and he just needs 4 to convince Jerry. After Tiger reluctantly leaves, Jerry tells Josh that he's a good and kind man who shouldn't be involved with people like them. She further claims that the biotics are actually fighting for a good cause, and Josh seems persuaded by her words. During their conversation, Jerry shockingly reveals that she actually doesn't possess the time travel device, and that the biotics jumped here on a one-way ticket. She further confesses that Cameronium was created by filmmaker James Cameron and named after him, but this won't happen for another 6 years. Josh is stunned by the revelation, and Jerry admits she lied earlier and that she genuinely has feelings for him. Upon hearing this, Josh's demeanor suddenly changes, and he reveals that he has only been pretending to be weak to get her to give him the necessary information about Cameronium. He then states that although Wolf and Tiger may be aggressive, at least they never lied to him about anything. Jerry is stunned to realize she has been tricked, but before she can react, her head explodes, splattering blood throughout the room. Moments later, Tiger enters the room and is stunned by the bloodshed. She asks Josh if he was able to obtain the necessary information, to which he confirms. Afterward, the trio decides to travel to 2023, where they plan to visit the estate of filmmaker James Cameron. This mission is critically important because if they can't find the fuel, they will be stuck in 2023 and never return. Shortly after, they activate the time travel device and arrive at Cameron's mansion, which is controlled by a female AI named Sigourney E. The AI introduces itself and asks for their identities, so Josh reveals that he's the son of a celebrity, Tom Arnold, who works with James Cameron. When Sigourney E asks if he is the 10-year-old Jax Arnold, Josh confirms this and explains that these two are his babysitters. It turns out that Cameron is not home, so Tiger orders Wolf to find the mainframe of Sigourney E and shut her down so they can roam freely. He claims he doesn't want to hurt the AI, who seems tough but maternal, but Tiger rudely says she doesn't give a damn about his feelings. An upset Wolf leaves, after which Josh and Tiger begin exploring the huge mansion, but they can't find much, as all the doors are restricted. In the meantime, Wolf begins chatting with Sigourney E, during which he accidentally reveals that he doesn't know who Jax Arnold is. This makes her suspicious, and she then asks Josh a security question about his mother's name. As expected, Josh can't answer correctly, so she locks him and Tiger in the elevator, and Wolf is locked in another room. Next, Wolf tries various methods to break the door and even attempts to use a bomb, but to no avail. He then becomes worried that Tiger will now have another chance to scold him. He opens up to the AI and reveals that Tiger is his mission commander, who never appreciates his work and always belittles him. Surprisingly, Sigourney E feels bad and explains how James Cameron also makes her do complicated tasks, but never appreciates her help. She claims she's exhausted by his orders and can't handle another reprogramming. Wolf consoles the AI, stating that they are both much more than they realize, but are prisoners of their own design. After this emotional conversation, Sigourney E agrees to help her new friend and asks Wolf to be honest about why he is here. He then explains their mission in detail, after which the AI opens their door and leads them to a room where they can find the Cameronium. Soon, the trio locates a hidden underwater chamber where they must dive into a deep, freezing pool. Sigourney E warns them of the risk of hypothermia and the high chance they won't survive. They debate who should go, but it turns out that Tiger and Wolf can't swim. This shocks Josh, who has no choice but to dive in himself, as they can't leave without the fuel. Next, Josh descends into the deep water and soon manages to find the Cameronium, but as he resurfaces, he is overwhelmed by the freezing cold and loses consciousness. He's on the verge of drowning, but fortunately, the other two manage to grab him and pull him out. Following Sigourney's instructions, Tiger gives him CPR while Wolf performs chest compressions until our hero finally gasps back to life. With the biofuel in hand, the trio decides to leave, but Wolf, who has formed a bond with Sigourney E, feels emotional about saying goodbye to her. She asks him to let go and requests that he make a few changes to her mainframe, which he agrees to. As the trio departs, James Cameron returns to the mansion but discovers he cannot enter inside, causing him to erupt in rage and scream at Sigourney. Elsewhere, the trio returns to 2017, where they arrive at a rural field along the road. They approach their vehicle, where several dead bodies of the biotics from the party are already beginning to rot and emit a foul smell. They thus set the vehicle ablaze and walk away from the scene, but unfortunately, the explosion also sparks a fire in the nearby cornfield, which quickly quickly begins to spread. Sometime later, Josh returns to work, where he runs into Dr. Cronish, who appears worried and reveals that his house recently caught fire. Josh, however, wants to know his birthday and begins asking about the doctor's past, but Cronish reveals how unhappy he is with his wife, Marigold, and admits that his true love was someone named Leslie, with whom he had an extramarital affair. He even points to a picture of a boat hanging in his office, explaining that it was a 36th birthday present from Leslie. They were planning to run away together that night, but he eventually backed out. When Josh asks when his birthday is, Cronish reveals it's June 24th and that he is now 68 years old. Realizing this might be their last meeting, Josh snaps a photo with the doctor to commemorate the moment. He then meets with Tiger and Wolf but is reluctant to share the birth date, but after some persistence from them, he finally relents. Soon the cops recognize them as the suspects in the string of fires breaking out across the city and begin pursuing them. To make matters worse, Skarsgård also manages to find them, and even the biotics also join the chase. The desperate trio then runs toward a forest, which is already on fire. They realize they must time travel immediately, or they'll end up either dead or in police custody. Amid the chaos, Josh takes control of the time machine himself, and in an instant, the three are transported to another timeline. But seconds later, Tiger and Wolf are shocked to see that they have arrived in 1985 instead of 1949, the year Cronish was born. They realize it is Josh's doing and get very angry, but he calms them down by saying there are other ways to solve the problem instead of killing a baby. He explains that there is a boat leaving tonight and they just have to make sure that Cronish gets on it. Josh then states how this was a turning point in Cronish's life when he was considering abandoning his life here and running away with Leslie. He claims that all they have to do is expose his affair to Marigold, which will blow up his marriage and give Cronish the push he needs to leave. This annoys Tiger greatly, but she has no choice but to give it a try since they are already here. Afterward, Josh and Tiger arrive for shopping, where he plans to buy some seductive clothes and photograph Tiger with them to plant in Cronish's bed for his wife to find. Just then, Wolf arrives with a car he has stolen, and turns out he has forcibly shoved the owner into the trunk. This greatly annoys Tiger, especially since the car only has 2 seats, which isn't enough. She insults Wolf and orders him to return the car and come back soon. However, an upset Wolf doesn't return for a long time, so Tiger decides to go find him because he has a time travel device that the biotics can track. With this, Josh heads alone to Cronish's house, where he wears the seductive clothes and takes some pictures without revealing his face. Elsewhere, we see Wolf has embraced the vibe of 80s culture and is having the time of his life. He is seen wandering along a California beach, joining a group of local men for volleyball and cooking barbecue. Returning to Josh, he leaves the seductive pictures of himself and prepares to flee, but soon a man enters the room, prompting him to hide under the bed. He assumes it is Marigold's boyfriend, and shortly after, Cronish also enters the room. Josh excitedly waits for a fight, but is stunned to see Cronish and the man starting to get intimate, which shocks him. It turns out that Cronish is actually a closeted homosexual, and Leslie is the name of this man. Shortly after, Marigold arrives home, and while Josh tries to slip away, she spots him in the hallway and is shocked to see a man dressed like that. Leslie and Cronish soon appear, pretending they're just hanging out. Marigold assumes Josh is a gay prostitute and asks if her husband is homosexual. Cronish denies ever seeing Josh, while Leslie signals for him to tell her the truth of their relationship. Unfortunately, Cronish doesn't have the guts to do so and claims he is not into men. This leaves Leslie feeling hurt, and he walks out of the house, while Josh takes the opportunity to leave as well. In the evening, Tiger finally tracks down Wolf and apologizes for her harshness, urging him to come back. But, to her surprise, Wolf has quickly gained popularity in this era and has found lots of new friends. He admits that he is exhausted by the mission and wants to quit the team. Upon hearing this, Tiger is shocked and insists he can't abandon her like this. But he responds that they've been fighting for a better future, yet the best future is right here, and walks away from there. Tiger tries to follow him, but she soon ends up losing track of the crowd, which leaves her frustrated. Elsewhere, Josh realizes he may have to use force on Cronish and heads to his home to retrieve a gun. He slips into his uncle's clothes and makes his way downstairs, where a lively party is in full swing. Josh is stunned to see his younger father drinking without a care, which shocks him. He then approaches Gabe and introduces himself as Juice. Gabe is delighted by the encounter and invites him to get high together, which Josh accepts without hesitation. On the other hand, Tiger finds Wolf again and tries to convince him to come back, but he refuses and locks her in a closet before attempting to destroy the time travel device. But Tiger soon manages to break free and tries to stop him, which leads to an intense fight between them. They both sustain serious injuries. And in the end, Wolf declares that he won't return at any cost, and she will have to kill him. Tiger is heartbroken upon hearing this, and she eventually decides to let him go. After having fun with his dad, Josh steals the gun from his house and goes to find Cronish. He points the gun at the doctor and forces him to come to the dock where the boat is about to leave. Cronish doesn't understand why Josh is so supportive of his homosexual relationship, or how he even knows about it. He reveals that if he boards that boat, he will be abandoning his career, social life, and entire future. But Josh tries to make him understand that the world is soon going to get better for gay people. Cronish thinks this guy is crazy, so Josh finally reveals that he comes from the future, which the doctor obviously doesn't believe. To prove it, Josh shows their picture from 2017, with the exact boat they are seeing now in the background. He then explains his mission and how Cronish's cure for herpes led to the invention of biotics that eventually destroyed humanity. Cronish wonders how that is even possible, so Josh reveals that the key to the breakthrough was possum semen. He also warns that if Cronish doesn't get on the boat, his colleagues will shoot him as a baby. Upon hearing this, the doctor is taken aback and understands that this man has come from the future to save him, and the least he can do is board that boat. He then thanks Josh sincerely and goes to reunite with the love of his life. This fills Josh with happiness, and just then, a badly injured Tiger arrives. Josh asks what happened, but she doesn't say anything except that Wolf is off the team. He then informs her that the mission was successful, after which they use the time travel device to leave. Moments later, the two return to 2017, and Josh is happy that their mission was successful. But when they turn around, they are shocked to see a huge building in front of them, which leads Tiger to explode in fury. She then explains that the building, known as the Cronitorium, is where the biotics were created, but it was not supposed to exist for another 50 years. This confuses Josh, who points out that Cronish would be long gone by then. Tiger then reveals that Cronish will only cure herpes, but his research will serve as the foundation for the super cure, which is developed years after his death. She suspects that Josh must have said something to him that inspired him to work on the super cure himself. Upon hearing this, Josh recalls that he accidentally informed the doctor about his future and how he achieved his breakthrough. He then suggests that there might be another solution, but Tiger has had enough of him and angrily kicks him off the team before walking away. In the next scene, Tiger arrives in 1949 and lurks outside Cronish's house on a rainy night. However, Cronish's mother, Estelle, notices her soaked state and kindly invites her inside for a warm meal. Once inside, Tiger searches for a weapon to kill the baby, but soon notices a picture of his father on the wall and realizes he was a soldier. Estelle sadly explains that her husband died in World War II and that her baby is the only thing keeping her going. She then hands Tiger the baby to hold and heads to the kitchen. Surprisingly, Tiger feels bad for the child and promises herself she will kill him tomorrow instead. The scene then cuts to a year later, showing that Tiger has become part of the family and has been raising Cronish. She appears genuinely happy, and every time she tries to kill the child, she always promises to do it tomorrow. However, in 1952, Estelle excitedly tells Tiger that her boyfriend has proposed to her, so she and Cronish will be moving in with him. This makes Tiger feel sad, but Estelle also encourages her to move on with her life and reunite with Wolf, whom she always talks about. As a farewell gift, she gives Tiger a locket with a picture of herself and baby Cronish. Realizing this is the end, Tiger heads to the crib to finally finish the baby, but once again, she can't bring herself to do it. Shortly after, Tiger returns to 2017, where she finds a shrine dedicated to Wolf, saying that he died in 1993. This makes her very emotional, but soon she notices a voice recorder nearby, and it turns out it was left by Wolf for her. Tiger plays the audio, and we see a flashback of Wolf, who is thriving in the 80s and has opened a restaurant where he kidnaps his customers to give them the thrill of thinking they're going to die and makes them eat his exotic food. Wolf eventually thrives in his business and wins several awards and widespread fame as well. But in 1993, Wolf has had enough, and he begins getting bored with his life and starts to feel regret for abandoning Tiger. One day, he decides to end his life, right when Skarsgård bursts in and tries to arrest him for his partner's death back in 1969. Wolf asks the man to kill him, but Skarsgård refuses since he wants Wolf to suffer his punishment. At this moment, fortunately, Tiger appears from the future to save her friend from taking his own life. The two comrades emotionally reconcile, and Wolf also apologizes for abandoning her. Skarsgård tries to arrest them and even fires at them, but the duo quickly uses their time travel device to to disappear, leaving the officer frozen in shock. Meanwhile, in 2017, Josh attempts to enter the cronitorium, but when the employees scan him, it shows a photo of him from 1985 wearing a seductive dress, and he's immediately kicked out. A frustrated Josh then notices Dr. Camillo outside, who has now become just a low-level employee. Confused, Josh heads home, where he is shocked to find that he now owns a mansion and is very rich, with servants who call him Juice. Alarmed, he Googles himself and discovers he is a millionaire who owns a large energy drink company. This excites Josh a lot, and he has fun with his new friends when suddenly, there's a ring at the door. It turns out to be Wolf and Tiger, who tell Josh about what they've been up to in the 1940s and 1980s. Josh is shocked to learn they spent all those years in the past, while he simply came home from the cronitorium during that time. Next, the trio decides to get back on their mission and find out what Cronish is doing now. Tiger thus approaches a lonely Camillo in the road and flirts with him. Meanwhile, Skarsgård notices her from a distance and is shocked that she looks the same as in 1969 and 1985. Tiger then heads to Camillo's home, where she prepares food for him and begins asking about his job and his boss. A smitten Camillo reveals that Cronish has locked himself on the top floor of the building and never comes out or lets anyone in except possums. However, they are soon about to find out because he is giving a big speech in 2 days, which makes Tiger realize it's not too late. Meanwhile, Josh goes to see his parents, who turn out to be living in a retirement home. However, his father is furious to see him and questions how he has the nerve to visit him after destroying everything. Josh then realizes that in this timeline, he turned his parents' place into his mansion and kicked them out with a court order declaring them mentally incompetent. Josh tries to apologize, saying it wasn't him, but his dad refuses to believe his excuses and tells him not to come near again. In the evening, a frustrated Josh returns home, and when he attempts to take a shower, he is confronted with another version of himself, the real Juice. Juice thinks Josh is his clone assassin sent to kill him, and the two get into a clumsy fight. During the struggle, Juice accidentally gets knocked to the floor and ends up passing away, while Josh watches with horror. Afterward, an excited Josh shows the dead body to Wolf and Tiger, explaining that in this world, he has never played Biotic Wars, so no one has ever beaten the game. So he decides to play the game again and beat it so they can recruit another Tiger, Wolf, and several other members. He speculates that if there is another version of himself, there may be other versions of them as well, allowing them to form an army and blow up the cronitorium. Next, Josh plays the game again and sends a message to the time travelers, showing them the way so they can avoid dying. He soon ends up beating the game once more and achieves the rank of Savior, after which the lights begin to flicker, signaling that the time travelers are about to arrive. Moments later, two time travelers, Dingo and Owl, finally appear and reveal that all their comrades died while coming here, including the other versions of Tiger and Wolf. After a brief catch-up, the group then begins hatching their final plan. They decide on stealth infiltration rather than mass destruction, and no nuclear weapons will be used, only targeted strikes. They split into 3 teams, and the first will be the Alpha team, Dingo and Tiger, who will clear civilians from the building, triggering a false alarm. Bravo team is Josh and Wolf, who will enter from underground to set timed explosive charges throughout the building, and Charlie team is Owl, who will disable the building's power and open security doors with explosives, allowing access to Cronish's lab. After this, they all decide to jump back to the future, but Josh states he won't go with them and will stay in 2017, where he plans to make amends with his family. In the next scene, the group sets their plan in motion, but while preparing to detonate the bomb, Tiger notices a kid is still inside and hesitates. Dingo tries to convince her that the future of humanity is at stake, but Tiger insists on saving the child first and rushes inside. This leads to a huge argument between the two, and Dingo notices Tiger repeatedly touching her locket. She snatches it from her and is shocked to see Cronish's baby picture inside, along with his name, which causes her to explode in anger. After fighting with Dingo, Tiger meets Wolf and Josh, and they try to reach the top floor but are unsuccessful. They attempt to contact Owl, who has become unstable since a biotic implanted a merm in his brain, which has begun to destroy his consciousness. Josh recalls that only possums can go upstairs, so he decides to use the possum chute. Tiger warns him that it's a one-way ticket because the possums sent downstairs are automatically burned in the incinerator, but Josh is willing to sacrifice himself. After hugging Wolf and Tiger a final goodbye, he gets into the possum chute and heads upstairs, while the duo stays behind to fight the biotics coming for them. After an immense struggle, Josh finally approaches Dr. Cronish's office, and the old man calmly says he has been waiting for him. Josh asks why he couldn't be happy with his lover, so Cronish responds that he was happy with Leslie, but he died of a staph infection one day, leaving him distraught. Cronish then devoted himself to discovering cures for various diseases so no one would have to watch their loved ones die. But Josh counters, saying that every time the doctor creates something, it leads to the creation of biotics. To prove himself, he shows Cronish the approaching biotic army on the CCTV cameras, telling the doctor that it's his creation. This deeply disheartens Cronish, who explains that all he ever wanted was to be a noble person and heal the world. He then shows 2 syringes, one containing all the deadly diseases of the world and the other containing their cures. He reveals that his plan for tomorrow's show was to infect himself with the diseases and then cure himself immediately. However, realizing that this will only lead to more disaster, he tragically decides to unalive himself by injecting himself with the disease syringe. Following Cronish's death, Josh sets the bomb to detonate in 2 minutes, while an injured wolf and tiger use the time travel machine to return to the future. Elsewhere, we see that Josh has sent all of Jush's money to his parents and even returned their house to them. He prepares himself to die until he hears Owl's voice, who is on the verge of death. Before passing away, Owl shuts down the power to the possum chute, which finally allows Josh to get downstairs without being burned alive. Moments later, Josh finally comes out of the building safely, just as it explodes and destroys everything. He rejoices at having completed the mission, but his happiness is cut short when Skarsgård shows up to arrest him. The scene then cuts to a year later, where Skarsgård arrives at the prison and plays chess with Josh. The old man asks about his time-traveling buddies, but Josh claims that he blew up the building on his own. Before leaving, Skarsgård shows him a newspaper clipping revealing that Josh's parents are doing charity work and helping poor kids with the money he left them. In the final scene, Josh returns to his cell and he seems content with his life. But moments later, the lights begin flickering and he gets up in panic, realizing that the time travelers are on their way again.